Hello and welcome back to the 1874 podcast. It's time for a match preview show. A huge game again for Villa this weekend as they travel to the Vitality to take on Bournemouth. Real massive game. Villa need to keep winning every football match to make sure they qualify for the Champions League next season. This show is again sponsored by Match Bingo. I'll talk about them a little bit in a minute, but great product I'm really enjoying using, making the football a little bit more fun. I'm not winning anything, but I'm coming very close. I'm Dan Bardell and I'm joined by the Athletics Aston Villa correspondent Jacob Tanswell, also a former Bournemouth player as well. Jacob,
can you still say that when I
technically
under 16s? Yeah,
still former Bournemouth player.
And former Bournemouth journalist as well. More importantly, so
I don't care about that.
I always enjoy going to Bournemouth. I know it's a small ground; it's very different to a lot of the other grounds, but it's good to always catch up with a few people there. I think it's a lovely part of the country, as they say, and I always find them very interesting games. So yeah, let's get into it.
Yeah, I mean, let's just talk about Match Bingo a little bit first. I'll put the QR code up on the screen now if anyone's interested in using it. There's also some information on the screen already all the way through the show, and also in the description as well. Basically, like bingo but football, and I'm enjoying using it. As I've said, I came very close in the Arsenal PSG game the other night to winning something. I was so close, but someone got their ducks in a row before me, unfortunately, so I didn't win. But it's a chance to win between £25 and £250, depending on what's on your card. So yeah, as I say, really fun product that I'm enjoying using. So if you've got the means and that's your thing, please do gamble responsibly. But yeah, have a look at Match Bingo when next time you watch a football match. Maybe do it tomorrow when you're watching Aston Villa take on Bournemouth. So Jacob, we come on every week now. Every show we talk about how Villa haven't really got any kind of room for error whatsoever, no margin for error at all. And again, Saturday fits into this.
Yeah, it does. Partly because of how bad the start of the season was. It was probably subpar. If you look between September and February, Villa won 6 league games out of 21, which is nowhere near good enough. And Villa have been on a really good run of form, right? In the last 15 games, won 12 of them. But still, obviously, there's still a lot to do. And I think it's Fulham. One of the reasons why you saw the cautious and nervy performance was because Villa know they haven't got any more room left to seed. Really, they have to keep up with the chasing pack. They have to win every game. Really, got to be perfect. And I think you saw that there was a knowingness among the players that they can't make any mistakes. So they were a bit tighter. They were a little bit more tense than usual. This game, I always feel like any team that plays Bournemouth is a really tough game. It's like it's a real banana skin because not only are they a good team, they test you physically, mentally. They go until the very end, as Villa know all too well from the home game. Set plays are brilliant. They're creative. They rival Arsenal, Villa in terms of creative set plays. They press, they transition. They want you to have the ball, and they'll expose you. So I think they're a really good team. I love watching them, and Iriola's one of the best managers in the league. So this is the toughest game of Villa season left. I think Tottenham and Man United will basically be on their beach, and as well as the fact they're not very good either. So I think this is if Villa can beat Bournemouth away, this is a huge statement.
So, do you think Iriola will be there next season?
Yeah, I do now. Yeah, I think he'll be there. I do think he'll be there. Yeah.
Don't think Tottenham?
No, Bournemouth's in a better position than Tottenham. I know Bournemouth will have to sell up a few players. I don't. Dean Howson will be gone. There's 50 million release clause. Antoine Semenyo, I think, is one player that could go, but he'll only go for 60 million plus. But at the same time, Bournemouth recruitment, I think they've been slept on for the last couple of years. Everyone talks about Brighton, but you look at Bournemouth, they've spent good money, but not huge staggering amounts, and they've signed some brilliant players. They're one of the youngest, average ages in the league. And if they, I think the only thing with Bournemouth is that they haven't got a lot of depth, but they seem to have a lot of their players back available. So it's going to be a very difficult game.
David Starr says, reading Jacob's great piece yesterday really puts the next 3 games into perspective. The difference between getting Champions League football and missing out next season is pretty stark. Got to be honest, I was on the Athletic yesterday, Jacob, and I read everything that you've done, and I've no memory.
Oh, thanks, Dan. Forgettable, is it?
Was it? What did you write?
It was about the transfers and contracts and stuff.
Oh, yes, I did read that. I was thinking maybe David Starr had got confused with the PSR financial piece that came out a week or so ago. So that was what I wanted to clarify. But I did read the transfers piece. Did some writing myself yesterday as well. Actually, if you go onto my Twitter feed and check it out, evaluating whether I think I basically evaluate every player in the squad and whether I think they'll be there next season. Came with a conclusion for every player. So do go and read that, and do go and read Jacob's article as well. The huge news that broke on The Athletic yesterday, and actually someone asked about this on Twitter, or now X, as it is. Youri Tielemans probably going to miss the rest of the season, which is a cruel blow to Villa, especially for this game, as we've just alluded to. The last two probably be okay, but this is a huge game where you want your best team and you need Youri Tielemans in there. He's not going to be there. Just quickly before we get into that, someone asked on X, forgive me, I can't remember the name. I haven't got it in front of me. They asked why it always goes down as David Ornstein when that kind of injury news comes out. It's David Ornstein, and Jacob Tanswell, I think it says.
It's not uncommon. Like, if you see a lot of our articles, when you break transfer news, there's often one or two or three on the byline. So you see it with a lot of my breaking news. You see it with a lot of Davis. You see it with a lot of other journalists. I think the reason why you have two or three on a byline, not necessarily just David or me, is we have different contacts. So sometimes, this season where the way we work as well, you've got to double and triple source everything. So I'll give you an example. We broke Kamara's injury early in the season. I managed to get 3 separate voices to confirm the injury. So therefore, it was me who did it on my own. There's other times where one of us might hear the news first, and they say, for example, about midday, we found out. We thought, okay, Tieleman is injured, right? We couldn't get a second source, so therefore, we talk in our channels. I managed to get a second source, then we back up a third source, and between me and David, we managed to get 3 sources and to corroborate it. So therefore, both of us are on the byline. That's how it works. So the great thing about The Athletic is, we have no issues in sharing stories. We collaborate very well because, in order to get enough sources to be very strong in our reporting, we will enlist as many people as possible who have got relevant connections. There's still times now where, for example, Bournemouth might have an injury, and one of our reporters is trying to find out, but they can't find out. They hit a brick wall, so they might send me a message knowing that I used to have contacts there and see if I can get the story. And then therefore we'll have 2 people on the byline. So that's how it works, and that's why you saw myself and David's line on a Tielemans' new injury story.
I like to try and answer people's questions if they,
for sure.
If they do ask them. But there's, it's a cruel blow at the end of the season, especially when over the last few weeks everyone has been talking about his durability, 50+ games this season, talked about his engine, what a really key and crucial player he's been. He's 100% going to be Villa's Player of the Year at the awards if you can afford to go. I can't imagine many people can afford to go, but if you can afford to go to the awards at the end of the season, I imagine you'll see Youri Tielemans lifting that award aloft. But it's a cruel blow at this stage of the season, Jacob.
It is, and when we heard the news, it was just remarkable, really. In terms of, we've all written about how great he's been in this durability, 52 out of 54 games, and you were hoping for him, he'd be Villa's Iron Man until the end of the season, and he could start every single league game. That would be some achievement, wouldn't it? But it's a muscle injury, so obviously, muscle injuries do tend to heighten when you play a lot of games, and it comes from fatigue. So you shouldn't really be surprised that he's got injured at some point. But given it's just towards the finishing line, and at such a critical stage where you need to win every game, that having you're probably your best player this season is a huge miss. Of course, there's a remote possibility that he makes Manchester United, but I think that would be that should be considered remote. I think that's quite unlikely.
Yeah, a lot of people referencing that it'll probably be Onana that comes in to replace him. I mean, we do struggle to do the team selections usually, Dave Reid and I on this show. We get everything wrong every week. It's been really impossible to pick Villa's team, but you can be pretty confident that it will be Onana that fills it.
Yeah, I think so. I think even if Tieleman was fit, I would have been surprised if he played in the 10 tomorrow.
Okay.
Because Bournemouth, obviously, you look at their midfield, Adams, Christie. I know Christie's been injured recently. The turnovers and how combative they are. I do think you probably need a bit more skill in there. So I think you'd have seen Onana, Kamara, and Tieleman anyway. But Onana will be in. And that this is a game that's made for John McGinn as well, so I could expect them to be the midfield 3 almost.
Okay, so we're talking then Onana and Kamara, obviously.
Yeah,
Rodgers and McGinn, I think, would have been anyway. You've just said Tielemans would have played as the 10 then.
I thought he would have played as 10. I
So
don't.
who comes in for him? Would it
Well,
be McGinn? I imagine McGinn potentially plays there.
McGinn plays as 10, but then Rogers off the right or left, and then who do you play on? Who do you play as a spare attacker? Is it Jacob
Ramsey, I
Ramsey?
suspect.
Yeah, but at the same time, you need Bournemouth can be quite a tight pitch. It can be quite tight in terms of Villa press. Do you need some width? Do you need some 1v1 quality out wide? Do you bring Bailey in, Marlin in? I think you'd bring Ramsey in, but
Yeah,
I do think for balance, maybe Bailey would be better suited.
it's just going to sound really stupid from me, bearing in mind we've just said it's a tight pitch, but they play with a lot of width in terms of their wide players. They get fullbacks. Kirkes never stops bombing forward. I don't think I've ever seen a left back that comes forward with such ferocity than he does. The speed in which he tries to overlap is like nothing I've ever really seen. And obviously they've got a selection of wide players depending on who they pick. So either side they play with lots and lots of width. The right back doesn't usually get forward as much, mirroring Villa a little bit. But unlike Villa, the players that are playing with the forward, they stay very wide. So
Yeah,
I don't know whether it's better to combat that with a narrower formation, which is what Villa normally do, or whether, like you say, whether a wide player that does come in. But my gut feeling would be Ramsey, Rogers, and McGinn.
yeah, I think so. I think it's important in terms of having width in possession. So out of possession, obviously you want to stay compact regardless. But the way that Bournemouth press and they press so high, I think having an outlet out wide where you can just switch to play, to the other side of the pitch, where and hug the touchline will be really quite important because if you play Rogers, Ramsey, McGinn or Rogers have to be on the right wing. One of them has to be on there, and you don't really want them out wide too much, and that will probably put an emphasis on Matty Cash overlapping. And if he goes high and he starts to overlap, then Bournemouth are brilliant, aren't they, on transition, and with Semenyo running in that left wing position like he did brilliantly last year in this same fixture. So I personally wouldn't. I would like to see Bailey or Marlin play because just a bit more width, but I don't think he'll do that. And the way Emery will want to play, it's going to be almost two contrasting styles because you have Emery, he's going to try and control things. I think he's going to be quite cautious again, try and control the tempo. But Iriole wants chaos, he wants turnovers, and that's how Bournemouth thrive. So whoever can get the best of each other will probably go a long way in terms of deciding who's going to win the game.
Let's have our weekly debate over then Tyrone Mings or Pau Torres. I mean, to be honest, as you're speaking, I'm thinking what I would do for a game based on what you're saying. If Bournemouth thrive on turnovers and are going to press, then actually I don't think that's a game for Pau Torres.
Yeah, I don't know the team because they should be doing shape work at about 11 o'clock. So
you sometimes do know the team, and then you try and come on here and you just drop a little grenade in just before you leave, but you don't know anything today.
I don't know anything today. This is the thing that Emery's got to consider because I think if Bournemouth press, I actually think Powell would be better because he's better on the ball and he can play through them quicker than Mings can. But at the same time, Bournemouth are so physical and they put so many balls onto the back line. You probably want Mings to be clearing that. He's the best inbox defender Villa have got. So for me, I think Mings should play, but I can actually see a reason why Emery will play Powell because if Bournemouth press and they're slightly off, Powell at his best can rip passes through them. So we'll have to see, but I would go for Mings.
Yeah, I think is the tight pitch thing a myth? But I'm just picturing Powell. And people are going to think I don't like Powell, which is because I like Mings so much, which absolutely is not true. I really, really rate Pau Torres, but I'm just thinking for this one, I think, tight, compact pitch, a team that's going to press high. He's not fully there in terms of match sharpness. I'm remembering little bits from the Crystal Palace game as well when they pressed. I just think maybe you're better off with Mings in this one. It used to people used to criticise Mings for getting caught on the ball. That doesn't really tend to happen anymore. And I guess the only other real selection debate would be at left back. But my feeling is Luca Dean came on to close the game on Saturday against Fulham. Against such tricky wingers, I think he'll want the defensive solidity. So I think he'll plump for Luca Dean.
I think so as well. I think Maatsen can always come on, can't he, and offer bits. But with given how Bournemouth attack, so like you say, with wide wingers who want to take you on 1v1, I think there's going to be more of an emphasis on defence rather than attack for these players. One thing I really hope we don't see is Rogers being in this right wing back position when Bournemouth have the ball, and because obviously Emery's going to be very mindful of Kirkes, right? So he's probably going to drop the right winger back into into a defensive line. I just don't want to see
Surely you put
Rodgers there.
McGinn there.
Exactly. I'd rather see McGinn there and Rodgers a bit higher up, so they can, I almost said we then, when Villa can carry the ball and transition through Rodgers in central areas rather than him shunted out right wing back. And then even if Villa do win the ball, he's so deep that it doesn't really matter. So yeah, for whatever reason, I really like to just see Rodgers either in a number 10 or on the left wing.
I mean, just shows you how good football is and how complex football can be. Karan Gatkar has just put something in the chat that is absolutely bang on, and I've now completely changed my mind on the fly whilst we're doing the show that Pau Torres should play, because how can we play forward if we have both Tieleman and Pau not on the pitch? And that is a really, really valid point.
That's why I said I can understand why Emery would probably play him in terms of in possession, because not many players can play out through pressure, and probably the best two are Tieleman and Pau. The only thing that maybe you could say is, and a lot of managers do say this against Bournemouth, is you don't really want to pass into midfield, because that's when Bournemouth win the ball. So if you just play out, if you can pass it into wide areas, into the fullbacks who then progress the ball, then that's better, because you'd rather lose the ball out wide than in central areas, which is far more dangerous. So I can see, if you do want to play Mings, you just keep it a bit more conservative and you don't try and risk those passes that Tieleman's or Pau would ordinarily play.
Yeah, it's one of those rare games in the Premier League season, or the back end of this Premier League season as well, where both teams have got something riding on it, which changes the landscape of the game ever so slightly, doesn't it? Because Bournemouth have got a real chance of European football. You know what, as well? So I don't want them to beat Villa, obviously, but I'd love for like Bournemouth or Brentford to get this Conference League space instead of someone that's not going to really care about it, because that's exactly what the Conference League should be. It should be for teams like Bournemouth and Brentford. And Villa used it well last season as well to build. Hadn't been in Europe for a long time, so I'm not saying disrespecting those clubs, because I think it was a good thing for Villa, a good competition for Villa. Whereas Chelsea in it this year, I've just got no interest in it whatsoever, because basically they could just play their resis and they'll be okay, and they've got to the final in doing that. But European qualification for Bournemouth of in any format would be absolutely huge. So as much as we think there's so much riding on this for Villa, and there absolutely is, there's so much riding on it for Bournemouth as well. It's you could argue it's as big for them as it is for us.
Oh, definitely. And you look at where Bournemouth have been. I was in the academy when they were in League Two and they were fighting to even exist. And they had 3 stands. I would have to ball boy in the trees in the empty stand, and barely anyone went. So the transformation in over a decade to potentially play in Europe would be unbelievable. And those same supporters that were there then are here now, and they'd be so excited about playing in Europe of any kind. So they would really appreciate it, and they know that this is a brilliant chance. They're not going to have Irioli forever. They're not going to have Howson, Zabani, Semenyo, forever. This is a great opportunity for them to get into the Conference League, and I'm sure they'll be bang up for it. And Irioli is going to be really up for it as well. So it's a game with enormous ramifications for both sides.
Last time I think you might have done the Bournemouth preview last time out when we played them at home, and you said Zabani was going to be a 60 to 70 million pound defender, but so they've got another 50 million pound defender next to him now as well, haven't they?
Yeah, unbelievable. Obviously, I think House will be a bit more, but his release clause is 50.
Yeah.
So, but Sabani will probably stay for another season, because you can't sell both of them in the same window. And Villa and Bournemouth don't need to. In terms of PSR, if they get rid of, obviously, if they move on Howson and they move on Kirkes, they'll get 100 million there, and that'll be should see him fine. But I still think Sabani's fantastic. I just love the way Bournemouth recruit. That back four, it's under 23, and they could easily fetch 150 for all of them. So yeah, really good team, really strong team, and I think they're so young. And one thing that Villa have to be careful of is they go to the very end, and they actually almost get better, because they bring subs on and they just fly at you. So given that Villa have conceded late, in some games this season, they've got to stay switched on until the very end.
I mean, conceded against Bournemouth as well. They've got even like someone who probably doesn't start every week, but like you say, they bring on their subs and they use their subs. Well, Tavernier comes on, and he's just a really good player to be bringing into a game. The thing I like about Bournemouth and Iraola as well, a bit like Emery and Villa, is that people have improved who were already there. You look at Ryan Christie. Really, really good player for Bournemouth. Could go elsewhere and maybe not be as good, but because he's just worked so hard under Iraola and he carries out the instruction, and Iraola's such a good coach, has just become like a really good player for Bournemouth.
Yeah, he came in as a wide right winger who looked like just a championship player, looked like that was his level, and now he's been repurposed as this like all action midfielder who gets everywhere. His energy, I don't think there's a player that has got as much energy as him. Like incredible amount, and he's improved. Adam Smith, who has been at Bournemouth for God knows how long, over 10. He's getting on a bit, but he's playing the best football of his career as well. So even the older guys, are learning. He made big improvements in Solanke last season. Cliver as well, who I thought was a player that was okay, but he floated around, didn't really do much. A bit of a journeyman at a young age. He's scoring a lot of goals. He's contributions involved in terms of goal numbers are big as well. So Tavernier, Semenyo, these players that are stepping up as well, I think they've got a top team. And I Bournemouth are my favourite team to watch in the league, so I do like to talk about them a lot because I do watch a lot of them. But they haven't got amazing depth. A few injuries have killed them this season, but their strongest 11's very good.
Yeah, even the goalkeeper, Kepa, he's been maligned in his time in England, but he's gotten there with little fuss, really. I can't remember too many mistakes from him, which I think is a good thing for a goalkeeper. He's kind of talking about 7 out of 10 every week, doing his job. And people have levelled a lot of criticism at Kepa, but he's just gone to Bournemouth and been absolutely fine, which again probably tells you everything you need to know about the club. Obviously, it's a critical weekend as well in terms of other fixtures. That Newcastle-Chelsea game feels quite big, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does. And I don't know, who would you rather win, right? Or would you like a draw to both points, or?
Because you'd think, I don't know. I mean, this game for Villa is huge. First, ask me after we've played. It's probably if we lose, it's going to be very difficult, isn't it? But people are saying in the chat we could win all 3 and still not do it. Like, I think if we did win all 3, we'd be okay.
Yeah,
but because of the fixtures. But
yeah, I think what Emery will do is he'll just simply focus on Villa. So if they 9 points and see where they end up. If they get 9 points and they still don't qualify, then you can just hold your hands and say, "Listen, we tried really hard." So yeah, I wouldn't worry too much about that. But yeah, I just think if Villa can focus on themselves, 9 points, they should be in a good position.
Okay, let's finish then with a hot/freezing cold take. Then I've got mine lined up. Bearing in mind what we've spoken about, bearing in mind Villa are very good off the bench as well. I'm going to go for a sub to score.
Ooh,
for either team, a substitute to score. That's my hot take. What's yours?
Villa are going to score a goal from outside the box.
Okay, nice and simple. We've kept it simple there, haven't we? That's very nice. Shane Brown says a draw or Chelsea win is best for Villa. And somewhere at the end of the day, someone's going to drop points. So, or both. So, yeah, really, does it matter massively?
Okay. I really, I know obviously everyone's going to be looking at other scores and seeing who's dropped points, but it ultimately doesn't really matter, does it? If Villa lose to Bournemouth, or even if they go to and have their Old Trafford hoodoo, right? And that's terrible. Or play against a Man United team who have been so bad for so long, and yet Villa still lost both games last year, still drew 0-0 this year. So I just think Villa need to worry about themselves really before worrying about Newcastle, Forest, or anything else. But I think if teams can draw and take points of each other, then it should bring everyone back into things,
Sean Coder's got the spirit here. We could win all 3 and come second.
There we go.
That's what we want to hear.
Oh, yeah, Arsenal.
Arsenal can still finish 6th.
Exactly. Every week on the Athletic, we've got to do a race for 5ths and basically just talk about the general mood of each club. And for so long, it was just Forest, Newcastle, City, Villa. Now the Arsenal writers has to be involved now because they could easily finish outside. I don't
really. It's a big climb down.
I don't think they're very happy after being dumped out of the Champions League and having to write a piece about the race for 5th. But yeah.
Which writer is it?
They've got so many now, haven't they? So they can choose who they want to write.
Okay, apparently another podcast. Not heard of it. Claret and
never heard of it.
and Beast. No. Yeah. Daniel Rowlinson, Rowley. I don't know if someone presents that anyway. It says they reckon Chelsea and Newcastle draw is best. So probably, if that was Rollo and Kendrick, probably that isn't best. Who knows? Let's just hope Villa win. I think that's my main takeaway. Just win
what's
Villa
prediction,
at all costs, like you did last weekend. Oh, we don't really do that anymore, Jacob. What's yours?
2-2.
1-0 Villa.
Clean sheet. Yes, please.
I mean, you can tell by the way I've said that. Not even I believe that. I'm not at this stage. I can't be predicting anything else but Villa wins. We need wins.
Clean sheet with Mings at the back.
It could be a clean sheet with Torres like last week, couldn't it?
Yeah.
That's what we build it. We build. I don't know. This might be wrong. It feels like when we keep a clean sheet, maybe we go on to keep another one. Is that wrong? Is that just made up in my head? I think that is made up.
Stats, don't we?
Yeah. Finally, Watkins to break the record.
Yeah, I think so. He's got a good record against Bournemouth.
He has. My theory is he won't score this weekend, but he's got an unbelievable record against Spurs.
Well, I hope he does. I've had this piece ready on ice for about 4 weeks, and it took a while to do, so he better do it this season. Otherwise, it may never see the light of day.
Got to. So, please do it, Alan. Yeah. No, I really want him to. I'd rather he did it as soon as possible, but I've got a hunch for Tottenham at Villa Park to be the one that
Tottenham are going to beat him, aren't they? Going to roll over.
Yeah. I'm so annoyed they got to the final.
Good on them. Well,
so annoyed. Right. Anyway, let's go. Jacob, thank you ever so much for joining me today. Thank you to the people in the chat as well. Very lively debate in the chat today. Lots of people chiming in. So thank you very much for that. Always appreciated. If you have watched via YouTube or you're going on to watch via YouTube, then subscribe with your post notifications on and leave us a comment as well. Subscribing is very, very important at the moment. Let's get those subscriber numbers up, please. If you're watching this on YouTube and you're not subscribed, just press a little button for me. That's all I'm asking you to do. Please do that. Jacob, are you subscribed?
Of course I'm subscribed.
I'm just checking. Get as many subscribers as you can. If you're listening via audio, then whenever this comes out, then just please give us a 5-star review on Spotify and Apple. Leave us a comment on Spotify and leave us a nice written review on Apple Podcasts if you can. That would be much appreciated. Do go and check out Jacob's latest pieces on The Athletic and go and have a look at my little written piece as well. I'm trying to dabble in there at the moment, just in case Jacob ever leaves. Could I ever get my journalist at The Athletic? Or maybe when they're in the Champions League again, maybe they'll want to employ a second person to go alongside Jacob. So maybe that can be me. But yeah, just dabbling in the written word at the moment. So do go on my Twitter and have a look at that. Right, we'll be back with some shows across the coming days. Keep your eye on the socials and the channel to know when content's coming. Have a brilliant weekend. Safe travels if you're going to Bournemouth. Hope your Friday is brilliant. I'm actually going to something tonight with an evening with Juan Pablo Angel, Dion Dublin and John Gregory. So that will be that'll be excellent.
Can you ask Juan Pablo Angel if he can reply to my WhatsApp?
I'll be out of the three of them. He's the only one I don't actually know. I know Dion and John relatively well, but I don't know. Don't know Juan Pablo. Might not be the first thing that I say to him.
No, I've spoken to him a few times. He's a really nice guy, so you should have a really love. I'm going down to Bournemouth tonight, so it should be fun. Yeah.
Oh, nice. Yeah. Back to his old stomping ground. Excellent to see some memories. Jack, maybe just walk around the pitch and take in his old life before he lived the dream of covering Aston Villa Football Club for a living. Right then, let's go. Thank you ever so much. Have a great rest of the day.